Leatherman Wave Alpha in finally, and we're going to be breaking these down today as well as doing a little bit of cross-compatibility testing. Um, we are live streaming this, so I might jump into the live stream chat occasionally, but main goals for today is just to get these broken down so we can get them listed at multipartstore.com, where we've got parts and accessories for upgrading your multi-tools. Let's start with a couple of T10 Torx drivers. Just going to spin those screws free. Have not obviously taken apart the Leatherman Wave Alpha yet, so going to be a bit of a learning process. And you guys will get to see all of the juicy details. So we've got, what is that? Aluminum? Little spacer ring there. You can see it's got its counterboard, so the screw fits in nicely. Another thing is these do not have the security pins in them, so they are going to be workable with any Torx screwdriver. Let's go ahead, since we're new to this tool, I'm going to take it apart a little bit differently than usual. I'm going to remove this scale entirely so we can work through layer by layer. You can see right there we've got that file falling away. Nicely machined screws on these. That might be something that only I care about. But on the file, you can see we're going to have this nice big bronze washer, a little thicker too, as well as that normal standard smaller bronze washer underneath it. Excellent. Let me tap that free. Oh, we've also got, similar to the Leatherman Charge, a couple of spacers down on the back end as well. Let me get these all set aside. So we do have this. Let me grab it with the tweezers so I can show it on camera. We've got this little stepped ring here, which sits on our base like, I believe it sits like this. Yes, it's going to sit like this. We'll double check that on the next piece. It might sit like that, but I believe it sits like this. And then we've got another little spacer here as well. If I can lift it up like so, just to give the right spacing. And that's where your pocket clip is going to slide in on this particular tool. Let's go ahead and pop these pivots free. We'll start with the plier side. So I'm just going to punch that out. Again, nice beefy pivot with that little aluminum tab on the top. We're going to lift this scale up and over our punch like so. And again, we've got that nice fat washer, bronze washer. So we're getting bronze washers on both sides of the external tools, which is a little bit of an upgrade here. And if we pop this free, we'll pull it off of the plier as well, just like so. Excellent. Looking down at the other side of this setup, we'll pop this pivot free. And because this only has one lanyard slot, we're going to have these thicker spacers on every other side. It means the pocket clip's not reversible for those lefties. Even though the blade should be, theoretically. Just like the arc, you can swap sides and swap that thumb stud to the other side. No keyed washers on this. At least on this side. It doesn't look like the pivots are keyed either. Yeah, no keyed washer on the pivot either. So these are going to be standard washers. That means it's going to clump a little bit more. Although that might be intentional. If you look at this side, there's not a lot of ways to grab different tools, but it is going to clump more than the standard Wave does, which is a bit of a downgrade, in my opinion. Let's get the other plier side undone. Should have that free, absolutely. I'm going to set all these parts over to the other side just so I don't get anything too mixed up here. And we'll do the tool side as well, just so we can take a look in a similar fashion. Oops. I'm also interested to see, I haven't seen, no, there is Loctite on here. Yeah, there is definitely Loctite on here. So we did have a collision there, things fell apart. Got the same spacer on that side, those are the thicker spacers. Got our scissors out. Do the scissors, yep, they have the same double washer setup. Excellent, good to know. Try and do these breakdowns so that if you're putting it back together, you can kind of reverse engineer it. And we're losing our internal components. So let's go ahead and pop loose our plier side pivot. There we go. Same setup. Nice big washer on there. We've got our small washer. Our saw drops out from underneath. That's going to go on the scissor side. Good to know. Excellent. Pliers should come free. No additional parts. And then if we drop out our tool stack here, again, no additional parts. It's always good not to find a part rolling across the bench. We've got our large flat driver, small flat driver, again, a little washer there. That does have a cut out of it, and I'm not sure if that's a manufacturing defect or intentional. We've got our lanyard ring, and then our awl, which I think a lot of you guys are going to enjoy having. If we look at the two little washers that popped out, that looks like it might just be a slight manufacturing defect. Does not look like it keys into the tool in any way. As compatibility goes between the Leatherman Wave, the Wave Plus here, and the new Leatherman Wave Alpha, I've got two can openers here. The one on the right is from the Wave Alpha, and the one on the left is from the Leatherman Wave. And the good news is they're identical. As far as I can tell, they are the same. Let me line those up here. So that means that all of our internal tools on the Wave Alpha, including that brand new awl, should be compatible with the Leatherman Wave. We're going to confirm that real quick, and then we'll move to the external tools to see how those fit, or if they fit. So I'm not going to go crazy here, just going to grab a pivot from the Leatherman Wave. We're going to drop this in place here, and then we'll drop in the can opener from the Wave Alpha. And just confirm that there's no issues that I'm not catching. I don't even need that pivot bolt. So you can see right here, locks in perfectly. Release that lock. Whoops, let's keep the pivot in place. Release the lock. The tool closes, sits down nicely. We have a completely compatible part. So all of those internal components from the Wave Alpha are indeed going to fit on the Leatherman Wave. Give me just a second. I'll prepare the external tools. We'll take a look at those. All right, as for compatibility of the external tools, I've got the MagnaCut blade in there, works just fine. Let's slot in the file, and you do need to do the file opposite of the blade because of where the little detent is. Those little pips in there are what hold the tool closed against the liner lock. So we'll slip that file in there and just compress our liner locks. It looks like it's about the right thickness. We didn't add any of the bronze washers, so I would obviously do that if I was doing this permanently, but just going to check it out real quick here. Let's spin that screw down and tighten it up. Might need one other screwdriver here. The other thing worth noting is we're not using those thick bronze washers here. Looks like the thickness is such of the tools, they don't require those on a standard wave frame. So tighten that up, back it off about a quarter turn if I can. There we go. And let's check. One thing is our tools, the thumb hole is going to be a little bit hidden there, but still accessible. locks up perfectly on the file. Excellent news. And our MagnaCut blade, awesome. So you guys will be able to add these to your Leatherman Wave without too much trouble. Let's check the scissors as well. I think that's too tight for me to do one-handed. We'll check those scissors across from the saw. The orientation will matter. The blade will be able to go in place of any of the blades. The file will be able to go opposite any blade on the Leatherman Wave because the frames are mirrored. Excellent. And so the saw is going to go in place of a blade on this tool. Again, that's so that that detent matches, as well as there's usually a bit of a slant to this edge. You can kind of see it right there where the liner lock interfaces, so you do need to do it from that side. That means the scissors are going to replace a blade in this case. So let's slot those scissors in place, and we'll add on the spring as well. Try and make sure we're lined up here. Sorry if I'm blocking the view. The question will be, do they close fully? They do seem to. They seem to be closing just fine. This does seem like it's going to work, but the proof is in the pudding. So let's get that screw tightened up. Again, just compressing the two sides so that they, the liner lock springs aren't pushing the tool off of the pivot as I start that screw. Let's get our second screwdriver in there. Tighten it up, back it off, quarter turn. Again, the scissors appear to be working. You saw that spring kick out on the first try. Could be loose here. Let's double check our tension. No, it does look. We'll double check the tension real quick here just to make sure that wasn't operator error. Let's try that again. Oh, it does seem to be working. Probably operator error. So the scissors do function. They lock up good and clean. They might want to kick out a little bit for that frame. If you wanted, you could just put in a pry bar here and bend that frame out just a little bit, but they will fit okay. They do seem to seat down most of the way, if not all of the way. And then on the saw side, we have a completely functional saw with that thumb hole. They do not stick out long enough for the nail nick to be operational, so that's something worth noting. Otherwise, I think that's all of the main tools from the Wave Alpha fitting on the Leatherman Wave. Let me grab a Leatherman Wave plier. Oh, I don't have a Wave plier head. Oh, I do have one in black oxide. That'll work. And let's just compare these two. The Wave is on the right. So if we stack these up, it does look like we're going to have completely identical plier heads. So there's no difference in the pliers. That's good to know as well. Let's pause the video real quick. We'll keep streaming, and I will check if there's anything else we need to look at. Thing to check, though I believe we know the answer, is whether the Leatherman Wave parts, I've got a file and a flat driver here, are going to fit on the Leatherman Wave Alpha. So let's do that test real quick. Again, just going to do it quick and dirty here to make sure we're not missing anything crazy, but I think the answer is going to be that everything is going to fit correctly. So we've got our Leatherman Wave driver here on the Leatherman Wave Alpha, and it does seem to lock up and function completely normally. That's as expected. Let's get that piece out of the way. And we'll grab our file here. Now the file is going to orient here. And again, that should be the same as, yes, that's the same as the Wave Alpha file. The saw is going to orient the opposite way for what it's worth. Now, if we were to add on, or if I were to compress this all the way, you can see we've got some extra space. We may have to go further with this test to really confirm things. However, for a quick check, let's drop in our pivot and just make sure that this opens and locks, and it does. So your external components from the Wave are going to fit on the Wave Alpha. That means you can add the serrated blade to the Wave Alpha if you prefer that over the scissors. You may need to add in those thick washers. I do believe you will, just due to the thickness of the tools compared to the frame. If we can press that down, you can see there's a bit of extra beef there. If we throw on one of those washers, you can see it kind of lines up with that outside of the frame. So I would recommend that. And I think that's all for our testing. We've got these Leatherman Wave Alpha parts going up on the shop very, very soon. If you're watching this video after the stream, they're probably live already, and I'll link them down below. But happy modding. Hopefully this helps some of you guys who are looking into different options with these new parts from Leatherman. And that's where we'll end the video. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next week.